So let's start with Microsoft Teams. And they break it out into sections, so I figured I did as well. So we're going to start with chat and collaboration. One of the things that came out is you can now rename the general channel. So if you're a Teams user and you go into the Teams and channels, you probably noticed that there's always a general channel there, and that's where most people use everything, but maybe it doesn't go with what you wanted that team to be. You can now rename it. So that's new. There was some people out in the community that loved this and some people that hated it. Whatever you rename it to, if you rename it and you have other channels that are like how the screen shows Contoso is first, and maybe you keep this one as partner team. So P comes after C, so it would show up later down the list. So they do get updated in alphabetical order. So just be aware of that. If you rename something, that the general one will be moved in alphabetical order. The shared tab. So it used to be called the files tab. So if you were in it, you had a one-to-one chat going on with somebody and you shared a lot of files back and forth, and then you would see up at the top that there was a files kind of link at the very top inside Teams, and that's where you could see all the files that you share back and forth. If you shared links back and forth, you would have to go back into your chat history to try to find the links. Well, now they have a shared tab that's at the top, and you can see in the screen that I'm showing the snippet of the screen that there's underneath shared, there's files, and then there's links. So now you don't have to, oh, what was that link that so-and-so shared with me? It was a handful of months ago. You don't have to go through the whole chat history now. You can click directly on the links tab inside shared, and you can find those links that they shared with you. So I've actually used this one. This one's very helpful. Time-based prompts for Copilot and chat. So if you're using Copilot inside Teams, when you would ask Copilot, you couldn't define a time frame to ask, because maybe you're in a team and you say, what was the discussion that the team had based on this topic on this month? Before, it couldn't delineate the months. It would just look for everything with that topic. Now they've kind of made some tweaks inside Copilot that you can actually say the date range that you want, and it will define it to just that area as well. Custom emojis and reactions. This one's really neat. Some of the channels that I'm in the MVP world, and some of the channels I'm in some of the Microsoft chats that I'm in too, they get really excited about custom emojis. So you don't have to just use the ones that are out there. If you have emojis that you want to use that fit your personality or maybe your company a little bit better, you can actually put your own emojis and reactions out there now. So this can get really fun. Enhanced notification controls. So what this is it used to be all the sounds and all the notifications were the same no matter what it was. Now you can specify that if it's an urgent request or an urgent message that comes in, that you can have a different sound that plays versus a normal notification that comes in. So it's more of a way to, instead of having those toast pop-ups, you can have a sound. So, oh, somebody just posted a high priority message. Let me go check that one out. And the rest of them, maybe you don't need those as more frequently. So this one's really neat. You can also mute notification sounds when you're busy in a meeting as well. That one's been out there, but you can mute them all when you're listed as busy or when you're in a meeting. So if you list yourself as busy, that doesn't necessarily mute the notifications. Now, if you do not disturb, obviously that's going to mute everything. But if you list yourself as busy now, you can actually mute those. So that part is actually new. Enhanced controls on notifications inside Teams channels themselves. So this one, I've actually used. This one is extremely beneficial for me, at least. When you have a channel and you got a lot of different conversations going on, and maybe one doesn't pertain to you specifically, but a lot of people are messaging back and forth on that one, and you're getting those constant notifications, you can actually turn off notifications for that specific post, and then new posts, you'll still get notifications for those. So example on this one, this exciting news. Maybe, okay, you already read that and you're good with that, but it doesn't really pertain to you. You can turn off notifications on that post itself. So that's a pretty cool one that's come out on some of the MVP channels that I'm in that don't pertain to me specifically. I can do this versus getting all the pop-ups. So this one's actually really cool. Image handling enhancements. this one wasn't, I personally liked this update that came out, but some people are like, whatever, it doesn't matter. So if you look at the screenshot there, it shows all the pictures coming across horizontally. So before, they would stack on top of each other. And so if you put 4 images into a message like this, it would basically take up your whole screen. So you would have 4 images going up and down versus left to right. So it kind of helps with the screen real estate. This helps basically how the chat history is going to look. So I thought this one was a good one to throw out there. Maybe not pertaining to you, but this was an interesting one. And when I saw it in action, like when I first read about it, I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But when I saw it in action, I was like, okay, that actually makes a lot more sense. So flipping into meetings and town halls. So there was a lot of updates inside this one, and I didn't pull them all out. I pulled the ones that I felt like were a bigger enhancements, because there was a lot of little enhancements made in this section. So the ones that I pulled out to tell you guys today are more the ones that I felt like would be relevant to the masses. So Copilot in Teams meetings. So when Copilot first came out inside meetings, it would only give you the Copilot responses would be from what was said in the meeting, so the transcription and the recording. But if there was a side conversation going on in a chat, or somebody asked a question in the chat and that never came up, like maybe I'm in a meeting and I say, oh, it looks like Kevin had a question in the chat, let's present that to everybody, but instead I just answered Kevin's question inside the chat itself, that wouldn't have come out in the Copilot recap. Now anything that happens inside the chat or in the transcription, what is said in the meetings, will actually come out in the Copilot recap and in the meeting announcements and the meeting notes as well. So this is available on desktop and mobile, so it's on both platforms right now. So the idea of this is most meetings, when the chat is actually active, technically there's 2 meetings going on. So there's a conversation going on there, and then there's the actual conversation that is happening in the meeting. So this is combining everything together. And I hear there's going to be some more announcements that if you're using other things inside, like if you're screen sharing through some of the live presentations like PowerPoint Live or Excel Live, that there's going to be probably some enhancements coming out around that as well. Copilot in Teams meetings for admins. So admins can now set how Copilot is for default. So if you have Copilot enabled inside your organization and the person that is the organizer of the meeting has Copilot assigned to them, IT can actually set, okay, I want Copilot to be on only during the meetings, or I want it to be during and after, meaning I can ask Copilot questions after the meeting has ended, or I just want it off. So these are the default settings that IT can set, but you can always, on your meeting itself, if you want to, say it's only on during meetings and you want to just turn it off, you still have that capability. These are the defaults of when the meeting starts. That's what this is talking about. Meeting recap and artifacts in Outlook. This one was pretty slick. So you can actually have the meeting recap come out into an Outlook email that you can email out to the team afterwards. So before, the meeting recap would just sit inside the actual meeting itself for whoever generated it. So if it was my meeting and I asked Copilot to give me a recap of this meeting, it would be in my team's meeting just for me, and I would be the only one that would have access to this meeting recap. So I would have to copy and paste that into an Outlook email and then share it out with the team. Now it will automatically do that. It will create the email for you, and then you can just type it out to whoever you want. Maybe there was somebody that you wanted to send the meeting notes to, like your boss or something. So now it's automatically generated for you, and you can send it out to them. Basically, it's taking a couple clicks away. This is a good thing for everybody that's in a GCC tenant. So these AI features are starting to come your way. So intelligent recap. This is not Copilot. This is a feature that was released when Teams Premium came out. That this was an intelligent meeting recap that you got after the meeting was over. This is not something that you can ask questions against. This is just, hey, this is what happened in the meeting. This is now available in GCC, which is a good thing for any people that are in a GCC tenant. You do need either a Teams Premium or a Copilot license to take advantage of this. It does come with Copilot license, or you can just get the Teams Premium license as well. New meeting gallery. When I read about this one, this was one of those features that, okay, I could see that being useful to some people, but it's not that big of a deal. And then I was on a meeting where we had about 40 different people. And so I changed my view to the bottom one where it says 7x7. And now I saw everybody on my screen at once. And I was like, okay, this is actually more useful than I thought, because most people in this meeting that I was in, they had their video enabled and I didn't have to scroll through the images or like page, to go through the different pages to see the reactions to people, to see if we needed to address any concerns that were coming up. I had everybody on one screen. So this was actually a feature that I didn't think was going to be impactful, but it actually was. And the cool thing is about this one, if you set it to the larger one, it starts to scale as more people come in. So if you have it set up for the 7x7, but only 9 people are in here, your screen won't be 7 across and then 2 people underneath them. It'll stay in the 3x3 until it needs to expand to the next row, until it needs to expand to the next row. So it is intelligent enough where it will expand. It's a pretty cool feature. So going into Teams rooms, this is a little different than meetings and town halls. This is talking about the equipment inside the meeting rooms themselves. So when you go into a meeting room that has the devices in there and you have your laptop, instead of having to join the meeting and then make sure you're muted on your computer and make sure the speakers are turned off so you don't get that weird funky feedback, you can join with ultrasound proximity join. And when you join it this way, when you join it, it will show that you are in the meeting room being joined by that versus you as an additional attendee. So it's pretty cool in that feature as well. And this is where I'm talking about the roster grouping. This is exactly what I was meaning. So you can see that Mona, Brooklyn, Darren, and Daryl, they're all joined proximity join, but they're in Studio H collab room. So it's not showing them as separate people that join. It's showing them that hey, those people are in that collab room. So you can actually tell if they're working remotely or if they're in the room with other people. Dynamic video tile resizing. What this means is if you are joining from a remote participant, you're going to have your own box like you normally would. But if a meeting room is joined as well and there's more people in there versus them having a small box, they're going to get a bigger box because there's going to be more people in that room and it will dynamically adjust. You don't have to do anything. So the meeting room will get bigger video real estate on the screen because there's more people in there and it's harder to see reactions and stuff when it's in a small box, so they get the bigger box. And I've actually in a meeting, I think it was last week, where I got to see this live in action as well. Again, it's one of those features. So I'm like, oh, that could be cool. No, it's way more useful than I thought. The native controls on the cameras, instead of having to go into, say, if you're using a Poly device or a Logi device, you don't actually have to go into the controls for those. You can actually control the camera controls for meeting rooms on Windows, so MTROWs. You can control those inside Teams itself now. You don't have to go into the application for Poly or for Logi or for Java. You don't have to go into their settings. You can actually do it directly from Teams. And this takes a couple clicks away. So this is a feature that if you're using a Microsoft Teams room on Windows, not on Android, that's coming, but it's just not there yet. So if you're on Windows, you have these capabilities now. Using Teams panels, you can upload custom background images. So panels are different than meeting rooms. For meeting rooms, you've been able to do, like the one behind me, you can upload custom images to that through the TAC, the Teams Admin Center. Now you can do it on the panels as well. So if you have panels around for maybe like a hot desking situation or something like that, you can actually upload your own branding image on those. If you have a meeting room on Android, and you hit the join with meeting ID, you now have the option to join a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting as long as you have that meeting ID. This one's still being rolled out. This is one of the ones that came out later in the quarter. I checked mine because the one behind me on the wall is actually, that's an Android device and it's not rolled out to mine yet. It's still being rolled out. And you also have to have Teams Room Pro. This does not work with a basic license. It has to be Teams Room Pro. But once you get it, when you hit join with meeting ID as the option on there, you should see a Teams option or a Zoom option. And moving to Teams phones. This one's cool. I have not personally used this one, but this one, I've been waiting for this one to come out for quite some time. If you're on a Teams call and say you're on your headset and then you want to move the call to your phone, you can actually move it to your native dialer, meaning you're going to use cell reception versus Wi-Fi reception, so the call will be a little bit stronger. So you can move the call from Teams on your computer to Teams on your phone, and now move that directly down to your phone itself. So this one's really neat that you can move it all the way down to, say you have a Verizon, you can move it to your Verizon number versus Teams sitting on top of your phone. Private line on Teams phones. So if you have an assistant or you have a line that you don't want to be publicly available, as long as you have a certified phone for Teams, you can actually have a private line that you control that number, and people only have that one, and delegates and administrators and assistants can use that just to get you versus a published number. And then you'll see that it's coming in on your private line versus your main line, and that one, maybe it's your boss and he has the private line, so you're more apt to answer that one versus somebody else.